I thought if I went to the beach and opened a flower shop, I could completely sever ties with Lu Ji. But I never expected him to show up with his famous actress fiancé, shooting a reality dating show, and walking straight into my shop. In front of the cameras, he pretended not to know me, then turned around and asked me to deliver flowers to his rival, and even tried on wedding dresses for her. He also accused me of being a home wrecker. But when I asked for a breakup, it wasn't because I didn't love him, it was because I had cancer and didn't want to drag him down. In the end, I realized his love was obsessive, and my life was full of pain. Our relationship was destined to be a never-ending cycle of mutual torment. After the breakup, I opened a flower shop in a small town by the sea. I thought I would never see Lu Ji again in this lifetime. But unexpectedly, the town became famous, and a reality dating show came to film here. Lu Ji and his fiancée, as guests, accidentally walked into my shop. In front of the cameras, I pretended not to recognize him. "Sir, are you buying flowers for your girlfriend?" Lu Ji paused for a moment, then nodded and looked at me. His gaze was indifferent, as if he were looking at a stranger. "Yes, for the proposal." When the words left his mouth, not only I, but even the woman by his side froze. Her delicate, bright face was filled with astonishment. Lu Ji, really?" I recognized the woman. She was a rising star, a popular actress named Shen Mukching. She subconsciously glanced at the camera, her face half surprised, half pleased. I didn't expect Ji would say that on the show. I shifted my gaze from Shen Mukching back to Lu Ji. Just as I was about to look at him, I was unexpectedly met with his deep eyes. I instantly got goosebumps. I wasn't sure how long he had been staring at me, but I maintained my professional demeanor and asked, "Sir, are there any flowers you don't like?" Shen Mukching smiled gently, holding Lu Ji's arm and waving her hand. "No, any flower will do. Tulips." Lu Ji's voice was calm. I froze for a moment, and a lump caught in my throat. Tulips were my favorite flower. They were also the ones Lu Ji always bought for me when he was trying to cheer me up. I stopped looking at Lu Ji's indifferent expression and stared at the gentle girl beside him. "Okay, Miss Shen." I turned my back to select the flowers. I could hear the woman behind me murmuring, as if teasing. I blinked my tired eyes, suddenly feeling a little irritated. I couldn't tell if it was Lu Ji's presence or the small size of my shop. But I felt the air had thickened, almost suffocating me. Luckily, Lu Ji's phone rang, and he stepped outside to answer it. For a moment, only Shen Mukching, the cameraman, and I were left in the shop. Shen Mukching started chatting with me casually. I treated it like small talk, agreeing politely. Suddenly, she switched gears. "You're so beautiful. Are you single?" I paused, unsure of what she meant. But I honestly nodded. She smiled lightly and said, "Single is nice. You have freedom." The cameraman asked, "I heard Sister Ching and President Lu are childhood sweethearts?" Shen Mukching put on her business smile and faced the camera. "Yes, Ji and I grew up together. Our families have deep ties. We were even engaged as kids." Shen Mukching seemed to get lost in her memories. Ji was so cute when he was little, but as he grew older, he stopped talking. We used to go to school together, but he didn't go abroad for college. We still kept in touch. I froze for a moment, immediately catching onto the mention of university. During that time, Lu Ji and I were dating. The cameraman guided Shen Mukching. "It seems like your relationship with President Lu is really deep." Shen Mukching's eyes curved in a smile. "Yes, I remember one year when I was alone abroad. Ji specially flew over to spend the new year with me. I felt a sharp pain in my finger. A thorn from the rose had pricked me. I wiped it off nonchalantly, but my mind was full of memories from our third year of university, when Lu Ji stood me up. No wonder he suddenly disappeared. He must have gone abroad." I moved slower, delaying my actions. I hoped Shen Mukching would say more about Lu Ji. Unfortunately, after Lu Ji finished his call, he came back in quickly. His eyes seemed to linger on me for a few seconds. Then he turned to Shen Mukching and said, "Mukching, there's a project I need to take care of. I'll leave now." Shen Mukching was very understanding. "All right, you go ahead. I'll coordinate with the production team." Lu Ji was about to leave, but as he stepped out, he turned back around. He looked at me and said, "Could you please give me your contact details? I'll need your help with future flower arrangements." I met Lu Ji when we were in university. At that time, Lu Ji was the epitome of an aloof, distant figure. Silent, cold, indifferent. He was colder than the ice of 1,000 years. I nearly exhausted all my patience to pursue him. Finally, in our sophomore year, I won his heart. When we were dating, Luigi was the complete opposite. As indifferent as he was during our pursuit. He became clingy once we were together. He wanted to be with me 24/7, always calling me baby. It could be said that Luigi was more exaggerated than the perfect boyfriend trending online. We spent our university years together, and even after graduation, we didn't part ways. But once we left the safety of university, I quickly realized Luigi and I were from two different worlds. He was the only son of the Lu family, with a huge family business to inherit. The gap between us felt like a vast chasm, and it frightened me. But Luigi kept telling me, "I love you, and I'll only have you in this lifetime." I believed him. But how could mere words overcome this gap? I still felt insecure. I would still get jealous when he attended events with a female companion, leading to big fights. I still received messages urging me to leave Luigi, accompanied by huge checks. Each time, I would smile and show Luigi. I would joke, "Look, it's like a scene from a drama." I'd tease him, "Do you think I could get rich from this?" Luigi would glare at the messages with a dark expression. "You Jiao Jiao, you'd better not leave me," even though I would explain that I was just joking. Luigi never believed me, he always thought I might leave him. So, that night, I became like a little beast with insatiable desires and no self-control. I could only whimper, gasping for breath, calling his name. Then, with his movements, I lost myself. After that, I never dared to bring up the subject again. But now, Luigi was about to marry someone else. After the flowers were sold out, I packed up early and went home. At my door, the landlord was waiting to raise the rent. I agreed to the increase. It didn't matter. There was no use in keeping so much money. But after sending the landlord off, I started complaining. Why had this small town suddenly become so popular? If it weren't for that, I never would have run into Luigi, nor would I have found out that he was getting married to someone else. I thought about it for a while, but couldn't resist looking up the reality show they were filming. It turned out this show invited several celebrity couples and regular couples. Luigi and Shen Mukching were one of them. As the CEO of the Lu family, Luigi had brought a lot of heat to the show from the start. Many curious onlookers were eager to see what it would be like for a CEO to date. I couldn't help but laugh at the comments in the section. I typed, "He's clingy and has no opinions." After posting, I went to take a shower. My hair was shedding a lot, and I felt frustrated. When I checked my phone, I saw that my comment had received many replies. How could that be? He's the CEO, not a 3-year-old. Ha, you're pretending to understand. It's not like he's dating you. Exactly, if you didn't know, you'd think you were Luigi's ex-girlfriend. Hey. Funny coincidence. I really am. And his first love too. Even though I thought that, my mood was still affected. I took my medicine and quickly fell asleep. But I dreamt about the scene from 3 years ago when we broke up. In the dream, Luigi begged me desperately. "Jiao Jiao, what's wrong with me? I can change." I didn't answer, just silently watched him break down. He smiled bitterly. "I understand now, you just don't want me anymore." Maybe it was because I dreamt of Luigi. But I slept badly. I forced myself up, took my medicine, and applied makeup, then went to the shop. I didn't expect to see an unexpected person at the shop door. As I walked closer, Luigi noticed me. "You Jiao Jiao, this address, 1 bouquet every day." I stared at the note he handed me, feeling a little irritated. He was already a billionaire CEO, didn't he have an assistant to deliver flowers? When I hesitated, Luigi sneered. "I can pay more. After all, you love money, right?" I finally accepted the note. Not for the money, but because I didn't want things to get too ugly with Luigi. But after I took the note, his face seemed even darker. I was confused. What did I do now? Luigi left without a word, but transferred a large sum of money to my WeChat. Of course, I accepted it. How else could I pay the rent? I started delivering flowers to Shen Mukching every day without fail. Every time I did, she would smile sweetly at the camera, her cheeks flushed. She looked like a shy, lovesick girl in love. "Ah gee, really, we know what's going on privately, but you have to." I forced a smile and said, "President Lu spoils you. You're really lucky." After a week, Luigi left, and I had delivered flowers to Shen Mukching every day. Each bouquet was different, and she seemed to really like them. That day, the shop was a bit busier than usual. When I arrived at her hotel room with the flowers, it was already dark. I knocked on the door, holding the flowers. "Sorry, Miss Shen, I've been so busy today." The town had become a sensation. After the first episode of the dating show aired, many of Shen Mukching's fans and the show's fanbase came to take photos in my shop. It really added to my workload. Shen Mukching was very kind, and by this point, we had gotten to know each other a little better. It's fine, but I'm doing a facial. Could you bring the flowers inside? I nodded. I could hear the sound of water stop from the bathroom. I was worried about bumping into some entertainment industry secret. Oh, I planned to leave quietly after dropping the flowers off. But then, I heard a familiar voice. Who is it? Shen Mukching explained. Oh, it's Miss Yu bringing flowers. Lu Ji paused for a moment, then casually said. Ah, I turned around and saw Lu Ji, shirtless, with only a towel around his waist. His body looked just as good as ever. I forced myself to look away and smiled at Shen Mukching. Miss Shen, I'll be leaving now. Shen Mukching was about to nod when Lu Ji's voice interrupted her. Wait. I stopped in my tracks, and Shen Mukching turned around in surprise. Lu Ji's heavy gaze landed on me. Miss Yu, since you're already here, one more trip won't hurt. The hotel is crowded, so please help me buy a box of condoms and bring them up. At the end, he didn't forget to add, I'll pay extra. The atmosphere instantly turned awkward. Shen Mukching was the first to react, playfully scolding. Ah gee, what are you doing? You're making things difficult for Miss Yu. She quickly gave me a look, signaling for me to leave. I walked towards the door, feeling helpless. Thankfully, Lu Ji liked Shen Mukching, so she was able to talk him down. Otherwise, I might have ended up doing something foolish tonight, buying condoms for my ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend. On my way back, I let the sea breeze hit my face. I suddenly remembered how Lu Ji was actually very driven by desire. Our first time was in our senior year of college. During the intimacy, I didn't really react, but Lu Ji ended up crying. He buried his face in my neck. Yu Zhao Zhao, would you marry me after graduation? I froze. I never expected him to say something like that. I jokingly replied, haven't you heard? Marriage is the graveyard of love. Lu Ji tightened his grip on my shoulder, lifted his head, and looked at me. He spoke each word slowly. Even if it's a grave, I want to be buried with you. His obsession was so deep, it stayed with me to this day. I looked up at the blue sky, sighed. What a pity. Now, someone else would be lying in that grave. The fame of this small town turned out to be even more exaggerated than I imagined. I was almost too busy to keep up. Thankfully, after Lu Ji returned, he didn't make me deliver flowers anymore. But every time they filmed the dating reality show, they would pass by my flower shop. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but every time Lu Ji passed by, I could feel his gaze on my little shop. Hey, does he dislike seeing his ex-girlfriend succeed? I didn't mind too much. But the overwhelming crowd forced me to hire an assistant. The person who came for the job was a male college student traveling through, named Xiao Chen. He said he could only work for 3 months. I furrowed my brow. I was about to refuse, but then I looked up at his quiet and gloomy face. I couldn't help but think of Lu Ji when we first entered college. My heart softened, and I accidentally agreed to hire him. That afternoon, Lu Ji suddenly sent a message asking me to prepare a bouquet of flowers for the hotel. I was glad Xiao Chen had started working that morning. I quickly grabbed the bouquet and went to the hotel. When I knocked on the door, an assistant opened it. In the center of the suite was a magnificent wedding dress. The light shining down highlighted every detail of the gown. I stood there holding the flowers, staring blankly. Such a beautiful wedding dress. Lu Ji was speaking with a manager. Mr. Lu, the measurements for Miss Shen need to be taken with her wearing the dress. But Miss Shen has an urgent appointment, so maybe we should wait for her to return. Lu Ji interrupted coldly. No need. The manager paused, clearly confused. Then Lu Ji suddenly turned his head and looked at me, lightly pointing his finger. There's someone already here. She has a similar build to Mukching, so let her try it on. Don't delay my proposal. My mind went blank. Blood rushed to my head. Seeing that I didn't move, Lu Ji stepped towards me. Miss Yu, Mukching has something to do, so I'm hiring you to try on the wedding dress for her. I'll pay extra. My throat tightened. Shen Mukching was a star who had to diet to maintain her figure. And I was sick and so thin I looked almost skeletal. I looked up at Lu Ji. His eyes held the same obsession and stubbornness I knew all too well. When he said something, he would go to any lengths to make it happen. My heart hurt unexpectedly. I forced a smile and nodded. Okay, 10,000 per hour. The assistants were quick and efficient. I let them work on me. The white veil fell over my face, blurring my vision. Come to think of it, When Luji and I were walking on campus during college, we passed a bridal shop. I stopped for a moment, staring at the gorgeous wedding dress in the window. Luji followed my gaze, smiling. Do you like it? Want to try it on? I quickly shook my head. But he didn't give me a chance to refuse. He dragged me inside and insisted I try on the one in the window. Unfortunately, the dress didn't fit. But Luji's eyes flashed, and he sincerely said, "It's beautiful." After we left the shop, he fell into deep thought. He walked me to the dorm and suddenly grabbed my wrist. "You Jiao Jiao, I will design a wedding dress for you with my own hands." The memory stopped there, and I was helped out of the suite by an assistant. A professional designer took measurements all over my body, muttering to himself, "The waist can be a little smaller. The bust needs to be looser." I kept my head down, avoiding looking at Luji's expression. But at that moment, a wave of indescribable shame and absurdity overwhelmed my heart. I was wearing what should have been someone else's symbol of happiness. Like a third party who didn't belong. That thought made me feel nauseous. In the quiet suite, a loud click echoed. Then I heard Luji's voice, slightly irritated. I looked up. Luji was sitting on the sofa not far away, legs crossed, fiddling with a velvet box. I knew what was inside. His gaze was fixed on me through the mirror. It was heavy, hard to read. But I could see a trace of scrutiny. It was like he was evaluating whether I was a suitable item. The assistants finally said, "All right, Miss Yu, you're done." I breathed a sigh of relief, almost collapsing. I lowered my eyes, not daring to look at Luji on the sofa. I quietly said, "Please, take it off for me." My voice was dry, unlike my own. I was about to enter the changing room when I suddenly heard Luji's calm voice again. "Everyone, leave. I need to catch up with Miss Yu." As the last person left the suite, my heart sank. I wanted to run away from this place filled with Luji's presence. But the gown was so large and cumbersome. I had nowhere to escape. Luji walked up to me, reaching out and tweaking the veil. His eyes held a playful smile. "You Jiao Jiao, if you hadn't been so difficult back then, maybe the person wearing the wedding dress right now would really be you." I couldn't take his piercing gaze any longer and turned my head to avoid his finger. I said calmly, "Enough talk. 2 hours. Remember to transfer the money to me." But the next moment, Luji suddenly grabbed my wrist. Before I could react, he pulled me into his arms. My nose slammed against his chest, and the pain made me want to cry. Luji's grip tightened. Each word came out slowly. "You Jiao Jiao, do you miss me?" My heart stopped, and I didn't dare to answer. But Luji didn't give me a chance. He spoke to himself. "I really miss you. I miss you so much that I begged you to stay. But you..." I could feel Luji's heat and anger. I will never forget the moment we broke up. Luji went from begging me to desperately questioning me, to falling into a desperate silence. And I just coldly said those words I had rehearsed 1,000 times. "Luji, didn't you realize? Sometimes, your love exhausts me, and it's a burden." The pain in my chest pulled me back from the memory. I tasted blood in my mouth. Luji pressed his hand against the back of my head and gripped my waist tightly. I had no choice but to let him take control. "Luji, the wedding dress will get torn." Luji took a deep breath. "It's not your wedding dress. Why would you care?" I suddenly came to my senses. I started hitting and pushing him with all my might. Luji was pushed away by my strength, his brows furrowing in displeasure. "Enough. Luji, stop acting crazy. You have a fiancé." I thought my words would bring him to his senses. But I forgot that Luji was already insane. He grabbed my neck and kissed me fiercely. I turned my head to avoid him. His kisses covered my cheek. In the chaos, I heard him clearly say, "What's the difference with being a mistress? Does my fiancé matter to you?" I froze. Blood seemed to freeze in my veins, and my ears rang. "Mistress." Those words stabbed into my ear like an ice pick, piercing my heart. I had hated that word for over 20 years. It was the reason my parents' marriage broke down. All my pain came from that unknown woman. I spent my entire teenage years healing, telling myself I would never be the third party in someone else's marriage. But now, Luji was openly calling me that. Even the wedding dress I wore mocked my beliefs. "Luji." I looked up at him, tears blurring my vision. My voice trembled, but there was a broken calm in it. "You bastard." Luji probably didn't expect my reaction. His eyes, full of madness and vengeful pleasure, froze for a moment, before being replaced by deeper darkness. "You Jiao Jiao, does it hurt?" But it wasn't enough. Smack. I slapped him hard across the face. The sharp sound echoed through the empty suite. Time seemed to stand still. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. Mr. Liu. Miss Shen is almost back. Lu Ji's eyes turned pitch black, filled with an even deeper storm. I stumbled into the changing room. I locked the door behind me. Leaning against the cold door, sitting on the floor, I bit my lip tightly, letting the tears pour out, blurring my vision. I wasn't a mistress. I never wanted to be. I can't remember how I made it back home. Xiao Chen saw I was in a bad mood, so he took on more work that night. Later, I checked how long their reality show would last. About half a month more. I decided to take a break and go to the next city for a few days. Xiao Chen said, "It's okay, sis. I'll help you again when you come back." I smiled and thanked him. Suddenly, Xiao Chen looked at my head. "Hey, sis, you've got flower petals in your hair." I froze and quietly lowered my head. I prayed he wouldn't notice the part in my hair. The sound of wind chimes rang. The door suddenly pushed open. Xiao Chen and I both looked up. Our gazes met Lu Ji's gloomy eyes. "Am I interrupting?" I stopped smiling and told Xiao Chen in a low voice. "Go ahead, go back." After Xiao Chen left, I immediately closed the door. I ignored Lu Ji at the doorway. I had hoped to keep things civil, but it seemed impossible now. I returned home. But I didn't expect Lu Ji to follow me. When I closed the door, he stuck his arm in the gap. I clenched my fists. "What do you want?" Lu Ji pushed through the door, scanning my small apartment. Seemingly confirming that I was living alone, he slowly spoke. "You Zhao Zhao, I've always wanted to know, why did you break up with me?" I gave him the same answer I had 3 years ago. "You wore me out. Isn't that enough?" Lu Ji's brow furrowed, his veins bulging. He gritted his teeth and spat. "I don't believe it." At the time, I was afraid he wouldn't believe me, so I staged many scenarios myself. For example, I made my replies short and delayed. I also had some trusted male friends cooperate by taking photos that looked intimate. In short, it was all to make Lu Ji let go first. My silence seemed to only enrage Lu Ji even more. At this moment, I finally realized, Lu Ji's illness, it seemed, hadn't fully healed. His clothes were torn apart. I trembled as I reached out to stop him. "Lu Ji, don't make me the most hated person." But he didn't listen at all. The waves of lust and desire drowned me like a flood. When I woke up again, it was already late at night. Lu Ji was gone. On my phone was a message he sent 5 hours ago. "Don't go online today." But the trending topics already told me what had happened. I was being cyberbullied. The trending topics were flooded with discussions about Lu Ji, Shen Mukching, and me. In the photos, I was constantly entering and exiting hotels. There were also pictures of Lu Ji visiting my flower shop and me trying on a wedding dress. The comments section was already flooded. It was refreshing at a rate of hundreds of malicious comments per second. "This girl looks innocent, but turns out she's a mistress. She's the third party, getting involved with someone who's about to marry. Definitely this girl seduced him." Girls from small towns would jump at the chance to get close to someone like Mr. Liu. How shameless. Even though he's getting married, she still tries on his bride's dress? Does she think she's worthy? My phone started vibrating violently. Strange numbers kept calling. When I answered, I was flooded with insults. Text messages filled with disgusting words and images. I sat in the dim room, the screen's glow reflecting off my pale face. My body still ached, a reminder of Lu Ji's craziness from the night before. Third party. Seductress. Bitch. It was all so similar to the insults I remembered my mother receiving. The difference was, back then, I was an outsider, a victim's family member. Now, I was the target. I stared at my phone's battery slowly depleting. Eventually, it shut down. My whole body started to ache. I collapsed to the floor, struggling to reach the painkillers in the drawer. Crash. I yanked too hard, and all the bottles rolled onto the ground. I curled up, trying to ease the pain. Before I could swallow the pills, I passed out from the pain. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. I instinctively recoiled at the cold white walls and the smell of disinfectant in the air. The hospital room was luxurious. It definitely wasn't the medical condition of that poor little town. My heart sank. It was Lu Ji. He was the one who brought me to the hospital. I heard footsteps outside the door and looked up. I met Lu Ji's bloodshot eyes, the redness in his gaze almost shocking. His hands, with clear knuckles, tightly clutched a medical report. He knew. Lu Ji stared at me fiercely, walking up to me. His throat was dry, and he spoke in a hoarse voice. You Jiao Jiao, you. Why didn't you tell me when you got sick? My eyelashes fluttered, and I lowered my head, remaining silent. When I was diagnosed 3 years ago, it was already late-stage breast cancer. My mom died the same way. If I die like that too, then in essence, isn't death just a kind of relief? Lu Ji took a deep breath. When he spoke again, his voice was raspy and weak. You've seen my psychologist, right? Yes. 3 years ago, I found out Lu Ji was seeing a psychologist. Out of concern, I secretly went to see that doctor. At first, the doctor advised me not to leave Lu Ji. But after I begged, he eventually told me the truth. Lu Ji's father had an extremely controlling nature and had pushed his mother to death. Young Lu Ji witnessed everything. From then on, he lived through the cruel training that came from his father's obedience. Whatever Lu Ji liked, his father took away. Only by obeying completely could Lu Ji have anything. The abuser became the source of both pain and salvation. Because of this, Lu Ji firmly believed that love and security had to be exchanged for absolute obedience. So when I loved him unconditionally, it made him fearful and insecure. He clung to me, using me as his only lifeline, his living emotional support. His world was so small that only I could fit into it. Once I left, he would completely collapse. At that time, I clenched my fists and promised myself I would never leave him. But soon after, I was diagnosed with cancer, late stage. I knew I would eventually leave. So, together with the doctor, I staged a scene where I was no longer in love with him. All just to make him realize, I wasn't someone worth loving. Maybe this way, when I left, his pain would be lessened, and he could continue living with hatred for me. Lu Ji. I finally found my voice, my throat dry. Don't worry about me. I'm so tired. I didn't want Lu Ji's last memory of me to be a sickly, broken woman. We were like two puzzle pieces that had briefly formed a perfect picture. But later, we realized we belonged in completely different boxes. Isn't it better for us to go back to our separate paths now? Why do you have to suddenly come in and break the balance? I was really resentful of Lu Ji's self-righteousness. But I was too exhausted to argue with him. I hung my head, not noticing Lu Ji's clenched jaw and the deepening darkness on his face. It seemed he could no longer suppress his emotions. His hand, gripping the medical report, turned white with tension, veins bulging. Jiao Jiao, we need to treat this. Lu Ji's voice was hoarse, almost pleading. Please, let's treat it, let's treat it. I turned my head, ignoring him. I silently rejected him. Lu Ji sat by the bed, tightly holding my hand, as if I would vanish the next second. No matter what he said, I remained silent. Lu Ji sat in silence for a long time. Then he suddenly spoke. Do you know why I skipped the trip abroad during junior year? I slowly opened my eyes. Oh, that. Didn't you go with Shen Mukching? Lu Ji was stunned. His Adam's apple bobbed as he struggled to speak. No. I only pretended with Shen Mukching to show our parents. She has her own lover. In junior year, I went abroad to bring my psychologist back to China. I realized I had developed a strong desire to harm and destroy, so I interrupted him. Yeah, I get it. The underlying meaning was, go away. Lu Ji, how smart he was. But he pretended not to understand. Silence spread in the hospital room. Finally, he spoke. You Jiao Jiao, do you love me? I do, but I couldn't show him a single trace of love. I was planning to leave and discharge myself from the hospital. But Lu Ji stopped me. He begged me, Jiao Jiao, let's get treatment, okay? No matter how much it costs. I'll save you. I looked at his red eyes. I actually felt sorry for him. I shook my head. No, let me leave with some dignity. I don't want to shave my head. I don't want to be covered in tubes, losing all dignity. But Lu Ji. He had to tear my dignity away. Lu Ji, with eyes red with rage, shouted, I don't understand why you'd rather die than keep a few strands of hair. Is your life really that worthless? Or do you already want to die? That's why you hid away in that seaside town and treated me so cruelly? I heard his voice crack with desperation. A feeling of helplessness surged inside me. Want to die? Maybe. When pain becomes daily. When the future only holds endless treatment and gradual decay. Death does indeed seem like a tempting escape. But sadly, communication is futile. 2 nurses walked up, each taking hold of one of my limbs. Fear gripped me instantly. In that moment, I became incoherent, tears flooding down. No, please don't. Lu Ji, I beg you. You can't do this. I'll hate you. I screamed and struggled, like a trapped animal. But my weak body was no match for their overwhelming strength. Luigi walked toward me, holding clippers. His cold fingers touched my forehead. In that instant, the uncle who took my hair when I was a child and Luigi overlapped. It was the year my parents had just divorced. My mom was working odd jobs but still couldn't afford the family expenses. Someone told her she could sell her hair for a high price. That day, my mom bought me a Kinder Egg, and I clutched it like a treasure as she led me to an open space. I sat in the center of a crowd, surrounded by a cloak. Many people complimented my long, shiny hair. I was a little shy, but my mom forced me to sit down. It wasn't until I heard the asterisk snip that I realized something was wrong. The man collecting hair kept threatening me, telling me not to move, or I'd get hurt. I froze in fear, desperately looking at my mom. But she ignored me, haggling with the man. The man was rough, cutting off only the longest strands of hair, right at the roots. Afterward, my hair looked like a tangled mess. The money from selling my hair went to my school fees. I couldn't blame her. But I couldn't console myself either. If I didn't sell my hair, I couldn't go to school. But if I did, I'd be mocked for my odd hairstyle. I was helpless. I was too weak to care about my crumbling self-esteem. The first strand of hair fell, and I stopped struggling. All my strength was drained in that instant. I stared, my gaze empty, unfocused. The sounds of the world faded away. All I could hear was the cruel buzzing of the clippers. I could feel them moving over my scalp. Wherever they passed, I felt a slight pull and the sudden cold of exposed skin. The hair came off in clumps, like autumn leaves, powerless to fall. After all these years, I still couldn't save that 10-year-old girl. Finally, the buzzing stopped. The floor was covered with scattered hair, stinging my eyes. They lay there like sacrifices, scattered across the clean floor. A tribute to both 10-year-old and 25-year-old Yu Zhao Zhao. Luigi threw down the clippers, breathing heavily. He looked at me, his lips moving as if he wanted to say something. But I instinctively pulled the blanket over my head, covering my now exposed, bare, shamed scalp. Darkness descended. I suddenly felt cold. A cold that seeped through my bones. And to this day, fate dragged me back to where it all started, using the cruelest method to tell me, see, you can never escape, whether it's the poverty of selling yourself, or the wealth of being saved. It's all the same at its core. They always find a way to exchange what you think is important, for what they think is good for you. And love, what is love? Is it Luigi's remorse and panic right now? Or is it the winter years ago when he held my cold feet in his arms, saying with burning eyes, Yu Zhao Zhao, we'll have a family. I can't tell anymore. And honestly, I don't want to. I'm too tired. Luigi booked the entire top floor, hired the best medical team. I started treatment. The cold medicine dripped into my veins, making me sick, vomiting. The pain in my bones felt like constant needle pricks. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my eyes vacant, unable to focus on anything. Luigi stayed by my side, lying to himself that the numbers were improving. Improving? Maybe. Gradually, I fell into a deep, weary exhaustion. My appetite, my sleep, even the energy to hate slowly faded away. Maybe to escape reality, I began having hallucinations. Sometimes, I'd see my mom counting the money from selling hair, her tired, numb face. Sometimes, it was Luigi's sparkling eyes from college, saying, Zhao Zhao, we'll have a family. More often, it was blankness. It felt like nothingness. Like walking in a desert with no end in sight. Sand ahead, sand behind. No oasis, no direction. Sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, I saw the unfamiliar version of myself. Pale, bloated, eyes sunken, skin pale. And the smooth, bald scalp. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't cry. I wasn't even sad. Just a faint sense of confusion. Who is this? Oh, it's Yu Zhao Zhao. That Yu Zhao Zhao who once ran a flower shop by the sea. Who used to be afraid of cutting her hair. Who once loved someone so deeply. Luigi had been putting his face to the cold shoulder for a long time. Sometimes, just a small twitch of his finger would excite him. One night, I suddenly told Luigi, let's play hide and seek. This was our usual way of making up after arguments. One of us would hide, and the other would search. The person searching would confess their mistakes while looking. The one hiding, after hearing the apology, would give a clue if they felt it was forgivable. It was both an apology and a way to give each other an out. But the hospital room was too vast, and the bed was the only thing that stood out. There was nowhere to hide. So, I changed the rules. I told Luigi to turn off the lights and find me in the dark. When he turned the lights on, it would mean I forgave him. Luigi agreed. I even saw the joy hidden deep in his eyes. What would he think? Maybe that I had finally forgiven him. Luigi turned off the lights under my calm gaze. The room was silent. I stepped lightly, slowly hiding behind the balcony door. I listened to Luigi analyze and apologize. His words sincere, his voice cracking. My eyelashes trembled, my fingers clenched painfully. The ending between Luigi and me had already been sealed. I was too tired. I didn't want to be tortured anymore. So, I spoke up and told him to turn on the lights. The lights flickered on, and the room became as bright as day. I sat on the balcony railing, the dark night behind me. Luigi's face was filled with unrestrained joy. He probably thought we could start over. I had chased after him so hard, stubbornly entering his world. Now, with this outcome, I had only myself to blame. I smiled at him. I gave him one last look. Then, I jumped, falling backward. Thud, it hurt so much. I heard that after death, the last sense to go is hearing. It must be true. Because I heard Luigi scream my name in agony. Yu Jiao Jiao, it felt so good. I had gotten my revenge. The world suddenly felt light. I floated up, looking at my own body on the cement floor. Luigi rushed out, almost tripping over his own feet. He collapsed beside my body, reaching out, but his hand froze before touching my cheek. His fingers trembled violently, hanging in midair, unwilling to fall. Jiao Jiao, his voice was hoarse, unrecognizable. Get up. We don't need the lights. We can keep playing. You hide. I'll find you. I'll search for you forever. He tried to lift me. But as his arm passed under my armpit, my head dropped limply back. Panicked, he tried to support my head, but his hands were covered in warm blood. Then he pulled my body into his arms, holding me tightly until his knuckles turned white. Almost in tears, he sobbed, "I'm not treating you anymore. I'm leaving. I'll go far away. Get up and look at me." He said it over and over, incoherently. The blood stained his shirt, but he didn't notice. The crowd gathered around, gasping and taking photos. Nurses and doctors rushed out, trying to pull him away. "Sir, please let go, she's already, get off." Luigi suddenly looked up and screamed, his eyes bloodshot with fury. Those eyes, always so calm and deep, were now filled with madness. "Who dares touch her? Who dares?" he snarled at everyone who tried to approach. By the time the police arrived, several people had to pull him away. He struggled, howling. But his gaze never left my body, now slowly covered with a white sheet. As the sheet fell over my face, Luigi suddenly froze. The madness slowly drained from his face, replaced by an empty confusion. Then, I saw him bend down, dry heaving. Tears and snot covered his face, but he didn't stop staring at the bloodstains on the floor. He looked for a long, long time. As a ghost, life was boring. I couldn't leave Luigi too far behind. I could only float behind him, watching him handle my affairs. He was eerily silent. On the day of the cremation, he was all alone. When the ashes came out, he opened the box and stared at it for a long time. Then, carefully, he dipped his finger into the ashes and brought it to his lips. The tip of his tongue touched it. It was still bitter. Luigi muttered to himself, as if in a trance. He held the urn and returned to our last shared apartment, the small place we rented after graduation. Now, it had become his prison. I never imagined he hadn't cancelled the lease. He hugged the urn to his chest. His cheek pressed against the cold wooden surface, slowly sitting on the floor. "Jiao Jiao," he buried his face in his arm, his voice muffled. "Is the balcony cold? I should have noticed. You were so afraid of heights. You said to turn on the lights. I really thought." He spoke in broken sentences, his logic confused. It felt like he was speaking to me, but also, to himself. Regret was like a slow poison, eating away at his insides beneath his silent exterior. Luigi sat there for so long, I grew tired of watching him. He pulled out a photo album. It was filled with memories from our relationship. As he looked through it, he suddenly raised his hand and slapped himself across the face. The sound was sharp and clear. Then another slap. Left, right, no mercy. His cheek turned red and swollen, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. He seemed not to feel the pain, only staring at my face in the photos with hollow eyes. "I lost you," he choked. "I lost you." Since that day, Luigi stopped leaving the apartment. He refused to talk to anyone. The Liu family sent people, but he turned them away. His world had shrunk to this apartment. And the cold urn in his arms. His strong body visibly withered. He grew thin, his eyes hollow, cheekbones jutting out. Signs of madness became more apparent. Sometimes he would suddenly laugh at nothing. Then cry uncontrollably. Other times, he'd hide the urn. Then search the whole apartment desperately for it. When he found it, he would hold it tightly, as though he had found something lost. One ordinary day. He sat in front of the mirror, staring at his gaunt face. And then turned on the clippers. The buzzing sound filled the room. Slowly, carefully, he shaved off his thick black hair. His eyes empty, his movements terrifyingly steady. When he finished, he gave a smile, even worse than crying. He looked at the air and said, "Now, I'm just like you. Do you think this is fair?" My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. Late at night, Luigi took the urn and walked to the seaside alone. He held the urn, walking deeper into the sea, mumbling something indistinct. 3 years ago, you left me. I hated you, but I hated myself more for not being able to hate you. Our reunion in the town wasn't a coincidence. I brought Shen Mukching to act, just to see you once. But you didn't look at me. You looked at me like a stranger. I made you send flowers, made you embarrassed. Even made you try on wedding dresses. I just wanted to tear apart that damned calm of yours, to prove you could still feel pain for me. I won, but inside, all that remains is a bleeding black hole. You got sick. I wanted to cure you, but I didn't know you cared so much about your hair. You suggested playing hide and seek. I thought we still had a chance, but you jumped. Zhao Zhao, this is your last punishment for me, right? The doctor said this was suicide. I didn't deny it. Without you, living itself is a form of torture. Zhao Zhao, you were right. Love shouldn't tire someone out. It shouldn't become a burden. But my love was a cage, trapping you, and then turning against me. Now, you're free.